One of my favourite times of the week, Free Speech Corner, with Jonathan Ayling from the Free Speech Union. Kia ora, good morning. How was your weekend?
It was delightful, full of kids' birthday parties and
Ah,
and and midwinter Christmas and that kind of thing. But I appreciate that, Andrew, and this is one of my favorite interviews of the week as well. So there
well,
you go.
well, hey, look at that. It's certainly probably one of your first. And you've probably
No,
got.
this is my third interview today,
Ah,
actually.
look at
So
that. Well, bronze medal for me, which is better than the New Zealand team is actually doing at the moment. But hey,
oh,
there we go. Well, I commiserate with you. You've probably got a fairy bread hangover after the weekend and all of those kids' birthdays, so I'll be gentle. We're talking about the Law Commission today. Well, their thoughts on trans rights. Firstly, for those of us that are confused, what is the Law Commission? What's their role? What's their mandate?
the Law Commission is a fairly auspicious body that is independent of the government, but an agency funded by the government that is responsible for providing robust legal advice that would particularly be led towards the government implementing new legislation. And so the government says, look, there's an issue around this. We're not sure exactly what the law should look like or how we should navigate this. Can you provide us with some advice? And that includes talking to affected communities and looking at laws internationally, other precedents, and then providing government with options that they could consider. They don't draft the legislation themselves, that occurs elsewhere. But what the Law Commission has done here is under the previous government, Kiri Tapuelen asked the Law Commission to consider whether the laws are currently right for the protection of transgender, intersex, and non-binary people.
Yeah.
And particularly with respect to the Human Rights Act, the way that the Human Rights Act 1993 protects these communities from discrimination. From the outset, I would say discrimination as an act is something that I don't think Kiwis have much time for. I don't
Yeah.
think there is much tolerance for individuals of different identities or characteristics being treated better or worse simply because of the way they identify. And so when it comes to access to housing or access to a job, the Free Speech Union would take no comment on these issues.
Yeah.
However, there is an unavoidably linguistic aspect of the question around transgenderism. Now, there doesn't have to be, I don't think. It's just the way it's been prosecuted. When it comes to questions of, access to sports or access to bathrooms, look, there's a whole conversation to be had around there,
Yep.
but it doesn't change the way I talk about people. So as long as we're allowed to have that debate, then free speech itself is not being trampled on in those questions. But there are so many other aspects of the question around transgenderism or non-binary or intersex that around pronouns, what's called outing. So if someone was born a male, identifies as a female, and presents that way, actually revealing that that person was born a male,
Hmm.
or what's called dead naming, and these are somewhat nebulous terms, really. A lot of people don't deal with these in their day-to-day lives, but dead naming is when, someone who was born Jack identifies as a woman now and it calls themselves Jackie, and you still continue to refer to them as Jack.
Okay.
That's dead naming. And so what the Law Commission is doing, it's a 200-page document that they've released, a discussion paper that asks 80 questions. And they're looking at whether the government and the law should take a more active role in the way we regulate interaction with and supposed discrimination against the transgender community. And so they're considering things like, well, do we want to make it illegal? And they're not saying yes, we do. They're asking the question:
Yeah.
do we want to make it illegal to misgender someone?
Can I just jump in
And
there and say what you're talking about essentially is hate speech with a hat on, isn't it?
that's exactly right. Absolutely right, Andrew. You beat me to the punch because I was trying to soften it up and go, well, we don't want people treated badly, but this is really trying to get in Kiwis' mouths and telling them how they talk about this. And you'll have a listener out there who's a legal wonk, and he'll go, no, 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 Andrew. Hate speech laws only exist under Section 61 and 131 of the Human Rights Act, and that's not being considered here. Look, I don't care what section the law exists under, or what the name of the law is, or
Yeah.
what the mechanism is. If the government is telling people that they have to use the pronouns of another individual, regardless of whether they're consistent with their sex or not, or face the weight of the state behind them.
Mm.
If they're saying that you could face criminal offences for not including these perspectives as a board of trustee in a school, for
Yep.
example, or if you did name someone, you used the wrong name for someone, then you could face a fine. That's hate speech laws. That is the government trying to put their pretty significant thumb on the scale.
Now, Jonathan, if somebody doesn't yell at the radio because of something stupid that I've said by this time on a Monday, I'm not working hard enough, honestly. But just, I suppose, looking at what is being said here. Now, it is a review of the Human Rights Act in 1993, purportedly to make room for a new category of people, trans and non-binary people, because honestly, 1993, just over a decade ago, those weren't people. Honestly, well, they may have been people, but it wasn't an issue that we were dealing with when that law was written all the way back in 1993. Would that be fair? A few decades back now?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm just gonna call you out on your math there, and it's a bit more than a decade ago.
Well, yeah, several decades at least. And honestly, like you say, having human rights for all people is a good thing, but I just want to put a finger on the use of language in here. Is what the Law Commission is saying, hey, we were thinking about this, what do you think? Isn't that just our opportunity to exercise our free speech and say, well, no, we don't think it should include that, because this isn't about human rights. This is about hate speech, and actually using the human rights legislation to take away the free speech of other people, that's just absurd. This is our opportunity, surely, to say that.
You're absolutely right, Andrew, and there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, I would say hopefully we can give a stronger endorsement to human rights and that they're a good thing, that they are indispensable and unviolable, and yep. You and I would agree fundamentally founded in the dignity that every person has as someone created in the image of God. And so that is something that should really animate us. But, well, not but. And yep. What we hold with that is the foundation of the human rights structure, of a liberal human rights framework that we accept nowadays, is freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. So you cannot, it is simply oxymoronic, and I would suggest downright moronic, yep. to try and defend human rights through a Human Rights Act by undermining free speech. You are cutting the throat of human rights by doing that. And so absolutely you're right. At the moment, the Law Commission is simply asking the question. There's a lot of power in the questions we ask, though, and I'm not going to pretend like I have a lot of faith that this is just an open-minded, well, what do you guys think? They're not proposing something now, but they're looking for people to help them propose something, and we need to make sure that a voice is spoken very loud. So the Free Speech Union is launching this evening. If you're on our mailing list, which you absolutely should be, or you'll be able to access this link, or you can try it later tonight, freespeechsubmission.nz yep. will take you to a site where we have identified the key issues that we're concerned about. You can add more concerns in there if you want, or you can completely disagree with us. This is just a mechanism to use to engage with the Law Commission and make sure your voice is heard in responding to the important questions that they're raising. But Andrew, one thing I really want to highlight is this is the third government agency in a week that we are tangoing with that are looking to promote hate speech laws. And you say, well, I thought, the number of people, Andrew, who at the end of last year contacted us and said, I'm so glad you guys have been around, but don't worry, Winston Peters is Deputy Prime Minister. Well, you can pack up shop. And I wish that they were that easy. The government did change. There is not much appetite for hate speech laws now in Parliament, amongst the government at least, but the public service is absolutely, I would say, hell-bent on advancing this agenda. They think it is something that is necessary, and so we see the Law Commission asking these questions, which are fundamentally proposing new hate speech laws. We see police at the moment requiring officers, this is a story we've been breaking earlier today, police are requiring officers to do hate speech training, and the examples that they're using are claims like Kiwi, not iwi. This was a National Party election slogan not 20 years ago. Yeah. And now this is a form of hate speech that police should keep their eye on. That there are only two genders. I mean, they had an example of someone holding a placard that said free speech. This is the sort of radical person you need to keep your eyes on. I think I might be on a watch list now, Andrew.
I think you've been on a watch list for some time, actually, Jonathan.
And then just yesterday, the chief censor, yes, we have a chief censor in New Zealand, yep. Went on Q&A and was saying saying that our hate speech laws are not fit for purpose, and what they are currently mandated to do is incredibly narrow to catch a lot of the things that they think they should be looking into. We see that there is a certain group of people, a lot of them, and I don't mean to tick anyone's kind of reactionary bingo card here, but there is an elite assumption that everyday Kiwis should not be trusted with the right to say hateful things, and they're wrong. Even for the Kiwis that are saying truly hateful things, and I think there's a lot less hate out there than maybe we would be indicated. Actually, even if there is hate out there, it's better to let it be said and to counter it and to challenge it rather than to put it underground where it festers.
Now, in order to get a full bingo card, you need to include the word cabal along with elite. I think then we would have bingo, full house. Is this just a change of administration? That the government is taking a different direction, but the administration, and as we said at the beginning, there was the Law Commission was given a particular brief from the previous government. Is this just the changeover process, or do the roots go deeper, do you think, Jonathan?
Oh, fundamentally, I suggest they go quite a bit deeper, and they go beyond the public service as well. I was on Mike Hosking this morning talking about the state of our universities, and I think actually that's where a lot of it is coming out of. This is where a fundamentally censorial, critical, postmodern perspective is emerging that is undermining many of the liberal perspectives that we've taken for granted in countries like New Zealand. And so I would say the public service is out of step with the government at the moment on this. But it still really matters. You know, I sat down with the Minister of Justice last week, and he said, oh, well, we didn't commission this advice. It would waste a lot of resource if we cancelled it, even though they've already started it. So look, we'll take the advice, but we won't do much with it. That's highly problematic still, because a Law Commission report is quite a difficult thing to disregard. And it will sit there even if the current government doesn't take this advice. And whether it's the next government or the government after that, eventually the idea that transgender people should be protected from misgendering or any other sort of advice like this, it can be picked up and run with again in the future. And so that's why it is so crucial that the Law Commission take a temperature of the room, gets the sense that Kiwis are not interested in this and have to include that in the report. And then no matter what government it is there, they know they will be signing up for a big fight with the Free Speech Union, but far more importantly with the tens of thousands of Kiwis that stand with us if they do pursue that advice.
FSU.nz for more information. I would thoroughly recommend you subscribe to the mailing list so that you are kept informed on these issues and have the opportunity to participate in the democracy. Jonathan, thank you for what you do. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.